My cat jumped on me earlier, so there's little feet here and there. And then the hay is still stuck where I was feeding the steer. Whatever. That's life.
As long as they don't scare you around.
I'm getting him all planned for Saturday. I always have to play God. I'm the one that makes the call to the village.
It's like a quiet break.
Blame George. He's buying most of them.
Call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Would anybody like to offer an invocation? Roll call. Risa.
Yep.
Kent.
Here.
George.
Here,
Jerry. Here. Bob. Here. Steve.
he's in the office.
Oh, he's in the office?
Yeah.
So he is here.
Yes.
We need to approve both, boy, that didn't come out. I'm starting out bad here. Both meetings minutes, the December 11th meetings minutes, and the December 26th special board meeting minutes. Hey, Steve?
Well, sir.
So I need a motion to do so. One at a time, both.
I move to approve both meetings minutes.
We have a motion to approve both. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Has everybody had a chance to make sure we made all the changes and corrections, I'm assuming? Yes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Old business. You got anything new on the fire hydrant thing? Risa?
Let's see. I talked to UBW, who sent me to Roseburg Forest Products, who sent me to Cork in Michigan. I talked to a Steve Bolmuth, who sent me to Matt Fullerton, who sent me to Dale Summers, who said they haven't decided.
Is that right? After all that, they haven't decided?
No, they're going to be building a new building out by the switching yard, and that's where they would want the bigger line. So I put it on Craigslist.
So this, we're talking about the water meter now?
Yeah, the
Not
certificate.
Not the hydrant.
Yeah, not the certificate.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we are. And I've never gotten the final thing back from Brad at UBW. So I called him again and he said, oh yes, I was talking to that guy and he's going to get back to me. And we're going to get together now that it's after the first of the year.
So where are we best guess on price for that thing?
About 13 grand.
$13,000 for the hydrant and everything.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. Our price would be about six or seven. And that is, yes, the hydrant, UBW stuff, the guy with the backhoe.
Everything, then deal,
Yes,
turn the thing on and water comes out.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, barring any unforeseen ugly surprises or anything.
Anybody have any questions on that? Comments?
I had a question on it. It's an unbudgeted expense this year, so I just want to know where it's coming from. I did the budget.
It's gonna come from the funds that when we sell the certificate.
So it's going to more than cover it?
It's more than enough to cover it.
Okay.
Well, or if not, then we'll just wait until we have the new budget and put it in there.
Okay.
I mean, we're not in any
I mean,
hurry.
that's what happened before. And then, yeah, so then if we're getting 13,000 for the meter, we're going to have to update the budget to show that, and then we're going to have to change the budget to show the.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting to see what offers we get, because I just, like I said, it's in Craigslist. Nobody's called yet.
I haven't seen it though. Did you want me to call?
Go ahead. Well, I'm just making people aware that it is in there and we are proceeding, but it may be 6 months. It might, I mean, it's not in any hurry. We're
Right.
just, the sooner we do it though, the sooner we're not paying the higher price on the monthly
Sure.
UBW. But
So we'll just continue this and see what happens.
yeah, I
as we
keep
go
making
along.
phone calls.
So the net result is we may end up with more money.
I'm hoping that that's the case. I'm absolutely hoping that's the case. I mean, even if we get 10,000, if somebody offers it 10,000, we can negotiate the price, and that's still way more than what it's going to cost.
Well, even if you break even, we're okay.
Well,
Yeah.
that too, but I'm
Bring
just
that
saying,
bid.
I doubt very much if somebody's going to offer us significantly less than what they would have to pay UBW for, because there are no more certificates at UBW. we have the advantage, so.
Cool. We talked about doing a January newsletter to coincide with the community meeting, to coincide with Steve's year-end report, and we haven't done anything about that. How would we like to handle that, since it doesn't look like we're going to have one for January? Should we table that to the February meeting?
Well,
Because even if we put one together, we're not going to be able to get it approved by everyone.
I thought most of the January newsletter was gonna be Steve's yearly report, yes?
Well, we're also talking about a January newsletter that is from district to the
Well,
constituency.
we were going to add something to it, but I
Yeah.
thought the gist of it was his annual report.
It is,
Okay.
but we still aren't going to be able to approve it all in order to send it out in January. Because we
True,
won't
we
have
can't
another
approve it
meeting.
until the February meeting.
Right.
So that means we're not having our like,
And if
town
we-
hall at the end of January or anything that we were thinking about?
Well, it'd be pretty hard to notify people if we don't send out a newsletter.
Homing pigeons?
Home pigeons. So, it just seems, I don't know how we get around that. It seems like we should plan a community meeting for February and have an outline to approve at the February meeting for the newsletter.
Okay.
That's my suggestion. I don't. unless
So we
somebody-
would need to have a late February meeting to have time to prepare and mail out the newsletter.
Well, we would have, we
And
could
give
get
people
approved a
advance
newsletter
notice.
at the February, the normal February meeting, not a late February, the second week.
Okay, that's approval of the newsletter.
Yeah, and then
At
we
the
have to
February
ask-
meeting, and then, once it's approved, it has to be printed up, we have to do all the mailings,
That's correct.
and we have to give people enough time to get it, and if they want to attend, to plan for it.
That's
So I would
correct.
hope we give 2 weeks' notice.
Yes, all of the above.
Right.
I agree. So is everybody all right with that? I don't think we have to vote on that, we just have. The independent audit status is going pretty well. She sent me a letter to read to everybody here tonight. Good afternoon, I wanted to touch base with you and the board regarding the financial review for the fire district. I have compiled, sorted, and created spreadsheets of the profit and loss reports, check details, deposit details, bank statements, budgets, etc., and currently working on tax and levy revenue. This project is similar to a spider's web in relation to everything leads to something else in another direction while crossing over itself. However, it is coming together. Just very time consuming. At this time, I do not have any final numbers to report that will be forthcoming. I just wanted to let you know that I am working on this and there is progress being accomplished. I would also like to say that I truly hope that whatever the outcome of this is, that it will aid in helping this town and the fire district to be able to put this behind and move forward. Lookingglass is a beautiful town and has a great fire district. And that's from Susan Shepard. And we also have her signed contract, which we probably should put in the file. I'll pass that down to Risa for me. So that's all the original signature contract. Anybody have any questions? Comments? Nothing?
I had a comment on that, was 2 meetings ago, Yvonne asked how we were paying for that one, and that was another unappropriated expense this year. There's money that we can move around. We budgeted $3,750 for an audit, and there's $2,000 in legal fees that we have not paid this year. But to do that, you need to do resolution or do some kind of supplemental budget again, because it's $6,500, which is over 10% of the fund.
Mhm.
So that has to be done before we pay. So
That's correct.
we need to start that too. When are you planning on paying her?
When she's done?
Okay, so we're not gonna pay until then.
Right.
So we have a few months to,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Attorney's hiring status. We've got a series of referrals here, and there's 3 more supposed to come tomorrow. So once we get a list of them, we're just going to have to sit down and and decide on how we want to approach the hiring process. The name that's risen to the top of the list most often is Marshall. I believe he pronounces this Henault. It's Henault out of Medford.
H-E-N,
Henault.
and the first name?
Marshall.
2 L's, 1 L.
1 L. Marshall.
It might be French, like,
It sounds like it is. Both sound kind of French, Marshall and Henault. Comes pretty well recommended, but there's another gentleman that is a former state trooper who became an attorney, and he is now representing fire districts throughout southern Oregon. And he came pretty highly recommended today, and so that's going to be checked in the next couple of days to see just really where that is. And
Is there a name?
I don't remember his name. I didn't write it down. Sorry.
We don't have anybody local though.
No. There was nobody recommended local, and when I spoke with both special districts and with Dave Pennicook, there was actually no real recommendations. The closest we get to local is the firm that we currently are using out of Eugene, Spearhoyt. And they did not recommend the individual that's representing us now. They recommended 2 other people. So that's the closest one. Next one's Lake Oswego and Portland. According to when I spoke with Dave Pennicook today, I couldn't believe there wasn't anybody closer, and he said they couldn't find anybody in this area that was interested in representing a fire district. So if anybody has any ideas, we can definitely contact them and ask. Accountants, we haven't gotten anywhere on that one, so that one's still out in the wind. Procedure, Paul, that's just how it is. You know, I will say that Susan Shepard had a rather long conversation with Tom Davidson. She said it was rather interesting and it would take about an hour to explain to me, so she's going to call tomorrow.
Oh, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, but she did speak to him and she did get the information that she needed, and she was able to continue with what she was doing with the information he gave. So,
What would the accountant, what's that? I must have missed the meeting or something, but what are we gonna use this accountant for? Because we're doing a hand.
if we need an accountant for advice
Just
or
advice
just to, you know,
So it's gonna be like on retainer, kind of like the.
same for the, just like the attorney, basically.
And if they want to look over the self-review, because that does help.
And we may get to the point where we want to have that review done and step it up to that next $700 level, which really wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't be a bad idea. So, procedural policies, second reading, and then we need to vote if everybody's happy with that. So Risa, can you jump into that and go through the second reading, please?
Okay. Procedural policies, Article 1, Section 1, Chain of Command. The chain of command consists of the following: 1, Board President; 2, Board Vice President; 3, Board Secretary; 4, Board Treasurer; 5, Board Communications Officer. Section 2, Responsibilities, see Bylaws, Article 5, Section 3. Now this is a change because it was at the end of each one of the officers, and I put this as a catch-all at the beginning. Each board member shall present their reports listed below at the regular board meeting. A, President. The President shall provide all documents required to open and run the meeting. This shall include the agenda and any other documents not specifically designated the responsibility of any other board member. Agendas shall be sent to each board member and the fire chief at least 48 hours prior to the next meeting. The board president or his designee or the fire chief shall be responsible for the reader board at the fire station. The president's report shall include the following: A, the agenda items; B, any correspondence pertinent to the board, for example, telephone calls, emails, etc. from outside sources. B, vice president. The vice president shall present an updated inventory report of all district assets at each regular business meeting. The vice president shall also provide a copy via email or hard copy to all board members and fire chief. The quartermaster's report shall include the following: weekly updates of A, weekly updates of all inventory lists; B, hard copies of all documents to all board members and fire chief when necessary; C, any correspondence to outside sources pertaining to inventory, supplies, equipment, etc. C, secretary. The secretary shall provide the minutes of special and executive board meetings at least 48 hours Prior to the next special meeting, the minutes may be in forms pursuant to ORS 192. The board shall make decisions on copies for FOIA requests based on time constraints, feasibility, and funds as necessary. See fiduciary policies. The secretary will also be responsible for correspondence of the district to other agencies not specific to the fire chief. The secretary will provide copies of all pertinent documents via email or hard copy to all of the board members and fire chief as necessary. The secretary's report shall include the
Can
following.
you take a breath for a second?
Mhm.
Back to the first sentence.
Yep.
Secretary shall provide the minutes of special executive board meetings. We'll need some commas in here, because it's actual special board meetings, executive board meetings, and board meeting. Isn't that correct?
Regular board meeting.
Yeah, regular board meeting. So we have 3 different categories of board meeting there that the secretary is responsible for. Whereas now it just sounds like it's a special executive board meeting.
So you want, he wants
This
to,
would be,
Special
instead of
comma.
having the parentheses.
Okay, you just want
commas
special,
separate,
executive.
Regular, special, and executive.
okay,
Okay?
yeah. Just commas, okay. I'm making that in pink because I already did the green ones. Okay. The secretary's report shall include the following. A, any correspondence to from the board of directors to outside sources, i.e. Noonan Davidson Cooley LLC. B, any ongoing projects directly associated with the board, i.e. fire hydrant UVW, not designated to another board member. C, hard copies of all documents to all board members and fire chief when necessary. D, treasurer. The treasurer shall present a written report, i.e. spreadsheet, profit and loss statement, monthly ledger, at each regular business meeting to be approved by the board. See bylaws Article 5, Section 2D. After approval, the report will be turned over to the administrator of the website for inclusion on the webpage. The treasurer's report shall include the following. 1, total speech accounts. 2, number and amount of all amounts of all deposits. 3, number of bills paid as well as listing of any credits and debits. 4, total amount of bills paid designated as equipment versus operations administration. The treasurer shall provide a list of all regular monthly bills, i.e. UVW and Douglas Electric, as well as a list of bills due quarterly, biannually, or annually. This report shall be issued at the first regular board meeting of each new year. E, communications officer. The communications officer will be the administrator of the website. Only the administrator will determine the final information and publish it on the webpage. The administrator will also determine if any fire prevention and or safety information from the fire chief or DFPA be included. The communications officer will have a key to the lock-in mailbox for the district and shall be responsible for daily retrieval and disbursement of the mail. The mail shall be sign dated before disbursement. These duties may be handled by other board members as designated. The communications officer's report shall include the following. A, updates and charges to the website. B, any correspondence with outside sources, i.e. DFN. C, hard copies of all documents to all board members and fire chief when necessary. F, all board members and fire chief. Each board member will be responsible for the downloading and printing of all documents required for their own use at each meeting, i.e. agendas, minutes, etc. 1, templates. A template may be used for minutes, agendas, treasurer's report, and other common documents. This will be established according to needs. G, signatories. 2, board members are required to sign a check, contract, or other binding document for the district. Some documents may require the signatures of all board members, for example, a safe deposit box. Section 3, due diligence. A, compliance. All board members and the fire chief shall familiarize themselves with the bylaws of the district, as well as other policies and procedures and the district operations manual. I removed B, education. Article 2, Section 1, community. A, member of the district. Any community member who volunteers services, i.e. time, equipment, labor, etc., for maintenance, improvements, and upkeep of the fire station or district facilities must coordinate with the board of directors. The board shall be apprised of money spent, time constraints, liability issues, and progress. B, participation in community events. And this was changed slightly also. When a community event involves the use of vehicles, equipment, or personnel from the fire district, the use must be justified. The board encourages participation in community events such as the Lookingglass Cleanup Day and Parade. The board of directors must determine if the use is of benefit to the fire district and the community. Board members as well as fire department personnel may participate according to a quick reference guide to Oregon's public meeting law, page 8, exemptions in ORS 192, 610 to 690 for casual gatherings. All board members.
Do we have discussion afterwards, or can we make comments now?
Okay.
Do it when they happen.
Okay, for this section on participation in community events, let's see if I've got it. I would like to recommend an addition to that.
Want me to
Oh,
read
well.
this? Is this the one?
Here, let me
or-
hold it up, and if you could pass it around to
Okay.
everybody.
Sure.
Or, and I'm not sure if that Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. This one is for later. But
Okay,
on the participation in community events, well, this does kind of relate to that. And I don't know if it should go here or under the fire chief. I would like to recommend that any events that are local within Lookingglass really, I feel, fall under the administrative responsibilities of the fire chief. And that's why I would like to recommend this either under this section or under the chief's responsibility, that the fire chief has the responsibility to arrange and the authority to utilize fire department staff and equipment for activities of awareness, prevention, and emergency response in conjunction with activities sponsored by the Lookingglass Grange. Prior to such events, the chief will notify the board of such use either at a board meeting or by email if there is insufficient time. And one reason I am bringing this up is because last night both Steve and I happened to attend a meeting of the Grange. We were both interested in becoming Grange members, and they were discussing different events that are going to be coming up. And it was discussed about the possibility of having the fire department participate in things such as the pancake feed and other events as has been done in the past. And it just seems to me that sometimes there's really short notice about certain events, and it might be more reasonable for that just to be at the fire chief's discretion to arrange for those events rather than having to come and seek the approval of the board. But I think he should certainly notify the board, as I said, either at a board meeting if there's sufficient time or by email if there's not sufficient time.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
you know, I can just add it.
Yeah, just add this to the bottom of this. Is that what you're suggesting, Gary?
Either here, yeah, if that makes sense here as a subpart to be, maybe that makes
I think
most sense.
I think that's very reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just add that.
Does Steve, is that okay? with
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should hear if he wants to do this.
We've discussed this before, and there's two things. There's an out-of-district and in-district.
Right.
And in-district, there's not, I mean, I can call you guys and tell you anything we're doing, and we're not going to do this on improper, but I understand the need for policies. Out-of-district, I talked with Jerry about this before because he was asking me about it, was we're a part of a Douglas County mutual aid system, and I try to have a presence at whatever goes on in Douglas County, but I'm not going to go to North Douglas County Drain to go to a parade. And I'm not, I mean, first of all, we cover, if I commit equipment, we make sure we have crews here still, and then our mutual aid and everything's in place. And I would certainly advise you that. And I have no problem you guys approving if we're going to drive down the Little Creek or nothing.
Well, not so much approval
Yeah.
as
It's just giving me advice,
awareness.
Yeah.
Just being aware.
Just aware.
I just wanted to reinforce with him too was that we're part of a, we are responsible to the citizens of the district, but we're part of a larger thing. Right. So.
Well, the whole community event thing is a major good thing. There is not a downside to that
No,
at all.
there isn't.
Yes.
I would add that I had numerous positive comments from the fire people in both Tri-City and Myrtle Creek that was very good of you to participate in the event down there. They appreciated it very much.
Well, we've been
That's
down
cool.
there for a few years, and it's a good deal.
So are we all good with adding this? Very cool.
I
Okay.
had some questions previous, I was just kind of waiting for the end. Do you want to go back, or?
Sure.
On page 1, for instance, under the vice president, or the quartermaster, quartermaster report, A. What is a weekly update of all inventory lists?
What is that?
Yeah,
Do you want to answer that, George?
what's a weekly update of all inventory lists?
Well, if anything changes throughout the week, I'm supposed to be notified of purchases of items for the office, for the fire district. Any changes on the vehicles need to be, brought to my attention, whether it's by email or whatever, then I'll come down and make appropriate entries. Or they can take a look, which is this, and enter it themselves. There are sheets in front of every one of the items or the vehicles where that can be done, such as this. And, you know, if you're gonna log out a truck, or if there's a reason why you're out of an item or something like that, you don't have to fill out a reason for a log out, but you
Well, no,
need
the
to put
next
in there.
page is the next page.
It's in the next page.
Yeah, you got 2 pages there, it's just the next one, right there.
Okay, this is the mileage one.
Yeah, and then,
And,
like I said, and then they can just check off or whatever, if something broke or something
yeah, you know.
got lost, you know, any number of
If
things.
something is removed from one of the vehicles, or something is put onto the vehicle, it needs to be added, and then we need to update the inventory for that particular sheet.
Do we have to do it weekly?
Well, only when it's necessary.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's.
You could always list that as just as necessary, because it isn't gonna happen very often.
No,
How
No,
about if we just say update inventory list?
As required or something.
yeah,
Might be a better way to put it.
yeah, but you need like at least I would think a monthly.
well.
I think that, like, what we were getting at when we talked about that last was that George needs to check it weekly.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yes, sir.
And then each month it can present the report can simply be no changes.
Right.
Correct.
That's fine.
Right. Or one. for the whole week.
Or one.
So do we want to
Something
change
wrong.
this to as required, just get rid of the weekly statement?
Well, I would rather have things more general and simpler rather than more complex and more tedious.
I'll just say monthly, and then that's just at the regular board meeting, that's fine.
And that coincides with your board meetings and.
Yeah, and like I said, if nothing happens,
We'll change that to monthly.
then
Would that work for you, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Ken?
Yeah, under treasure, for instance, I was looking at this list of stuff for me to do. You know, number and amounts of all deposits, number of bills paid, as well as listing trend stuff. For instance, I've got a folder for our bills, but I didn't go through and count them. I don't have a number. We'll just go through them one by one and approve them, or not approve, I suppose. But for instance, number, I didn't bother to count them. Total amount of bills to be paid. I think I added them up last time, but I don't have a full edition this time. And I think you gave me a couple more just tonight. So,
Right.
you know, these specifics also, I'd rather eliminate, just to make things a little bit simpler and a little bit more general in my job description.
Well, I have a suggestion for this particular category is that one of the things that Susan Shepard and I were speaking about today is she's trying to find very simple ways for us to carry on the financial end of this district. And she would like to substantially change the way it's been done. And this is one of the things she says can be very, very simple, and that is the treasurer's report. And she has a way to do it. She'd like to come down and do a workshop with us to go over some of these items. So these items that are listed here are the types of items that will be included in that. But she says you're going to be able to basically just walk in and not effectively push a button, but pretty close.
Well, for instance, on a profit and loss account, you get almost all of that.
No.
A lot of it you do, but you
Depends on
just,
what the profit and loss statement is. The one that I have for you tonight does not give,
it doesn't give the amount and,
it gives a summary of it.
Right.
It's not detailed.
well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be really detailed,
Well, I agree.
you know, I
But
mean,
well, this is kind of detailed stuff, and I don't know that, I think it's fine to go into it if we want to go into it. But if we don't see a need to, you know, why have it engraved that, well, we've got to go through this sort of detail?
Well, how about if we did this? How about if we just take items 1 through 4 and bracket that and state that it's going to be a standard profit and loss?
Well, almost, I suppose I'd rather say at this point, based on your news of Susan Shepherd, maybe we just need to wait and see what she says.
Well, that's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
We can do
And
that.
then go on
If-
her,
yeah,
on
she's
her
going to-
recommendation.
If she can come down, what's the time frame for that?
She's gonna try and have some answers for that in the next week.
Okay, but I'm saying if she, yeah, if she could come down and show Kent or the rest of us or whatever a simpler way,
That's
goody.
That would
be
be
good to
great.
see what she has tonight.
Well, it's just because, by law, actually, we're supposed to have things even for, audience members if they want to see what the monies are, because it's a public disclosure thing, and we have to have something.
Yes.
Sitting here as a taxpayer and having been through this for well over a year and a half with several treasurers, it has been customary that we heard, what did we spend this month? What was bills and what's our balances?
Mhm.
So we had an idea as month to month that exactly what was going on. And all of a sudden, whoa, how come there was twice as many bills this month as there's been any other time? People would have questions and say, what's that all about? You get an explanation, maybe it's satisfactory, maybe it's not, but at least you had an idea of what's happening.
That's correct. And there's also another, I think that the best idea here, I'm just gonna make this as my suggestion, is that we take Susan Shepherd's suggestion, because there's also an element of this that we haven't ever done as a board since July 10th, and that is that we don't compare the bills we're paying to where we are in the budget. And that's something that's required. We have to be able to do that. And so that's one of the things she's gonna help us with, so that at any moment, we'll know, are we 85% through our budget? Are we 45% through our budget, et cetera? Because all you're doing by approving the bills is you are just approving an expenditure. But you may be approving an expenditure that exceeds the item in the budget. And she said she wants that to get to a point where you just look at this report and it tells you.
I have copies of that. I used to get that profit, or if it was a profit and loss report, it would show the percentage of each account. I used to keep, that's how I kept track of planning last year on what I was spending.
Well, this
And
is what-
it's something that comes off of QuickBooks.
Yeah, we used to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that she will come up with a very easy system. So if we just leave it, on her recommendation, and then we can discuss that when we get that recommendation, if everybody's comfortable with that.
So we're postponing final approval of these procedures,
No,
correct?
we're gonna postpone it. We're not postponing it. We're at a second reading, and then we're gonna approve this with changes.
Without knowing what this is going to say?
Well, we can approve this with the fact that we're gonna do it with Susan Shepherd's modification. If you prefer to postpone this, we can postpone it for another month.
Well, until hearing her modification, I'm reluctant to give approval.
Okay?
As much as we may trust her, I would want to hear it first.
What seems kind of ridiculous to not approve an entire document that we've been working on for 3 months over one section. We could exclude this section and add it at another meeting. Just my suggestion.
Or can it be approved and then modified, amended at a later meeting, or does it take
Yeah,
a
we do-
series
we
of
can do it that way too.
readings? Does it take a series of readings to do that?
No, once it's a document, it can be amended.
Okay.
But you'd have to amend it over 2
Two
meetings.
meetings.
But yeah, that's what I meant.
That's why I said
Yes.
it's 1 month and the
You
next.
would read it, just like we just did. You read it the first month and then vote and
Mhm.
approve it the second.
Well,
So we can do it with, there's 3 options. We can do it any of those ways. So,
well, let me finish and see if there's any more major changes. and
okay.
then-
I have some more things going, Brent.
Oh, okay. Well, he had his
Under
questions too.
Under the communications officer,
Yes.
basically, I think what I read here is that, Jerry's going to handle the mail, or the communications officer, in this case, Jerry. And that's all there is room for. I would like to Be sure that Steve has opportunity or access, to get the mail if he wanted to, if it was driving by, if he wanted to check something. I think normally he's been doing that. And as far as I know, most mails for him anyway. That's my guess anyway. But I don't see where we really need to, be the only ones to access the mailbox. And then further also, the mail shall be signed and dated before disbursement. Like I said, I like things simpler as far as signing and dating and stuff. Let's put it where it needs to go. I'd say not worry about logging it, signing it, dating it, something like that.
Anybody have any comments or any further comments?
I agree that Steve should have access to the mailbox. I would suggest that if he sees anything that looks like it's from the county, that might be checks, something like that, that he could just leave it in the locking mailbox, because my understanding is that we are, or I am then responsible for putting those into our locking safe. Is that correct?
Or into our locking file cabinet, either one.
Or locking file cabinet. And so we wouldn't want, Steve to just bring it in and put it in my box or somebody else's open mailbox, or in a, just a folder sticking out somewhere. We need to make sure that those checks are secure.
Yeah, I don't have any trouble with that at all.
May I say something?
Certainly.
I don't agree with that at all, because that defeats the purpose of a chain of command in which we're trying to establish. The other thing, I don't particularly care, we are responsible as a board for everything that goes through this department. And if we start diluting our power to other people in the department that are not responsible, then what are you going to do after there is an issue? Are you going to start pointing fingers at everybody else? No, this one had it, no, that one had it. Or just exactly what are we going to do? We have to have some kind of a chain of command and a chain of handling the mail. What's the big deal? I don't see any problem with one person picking up the mail and distributing where it needs to go. After all, every one of us on this board is responsible for what happens.
Steve also has administrative responsibilities, and I believe that he needs access. As fire chief, he has administrative responsibilities for the fire department, and he does receive mail pertinent to that. And I personally believe that he should be allowed that responsibility to check for any mail that might be coming in. I might be checking at a later time than he might be checking, and he needs to be able to have access to things.
We don't have mail twice a day. We only get it once.
Well, the next step could be, we put here, Jerry has to check the mailbox at 1:30. Our system that we've had hasn't particularly been delineated prior to this. There hasn't been any great problems that I'm aware of, other than the tax checks, and that was even part of that problem. But as far as I know, nothing has disappeared. And the real fear is somebody getting into the mailbox, which a locking mailbox has solved. But whether somebody here gets the mail, or whether Steve drops by and picks up the mail, I have no problem with it whatsoever.
There has been an issue. There have been a couple of issues. There is a problem.
What are the issues?
That you opened mail that was addressed to someone else.
I don't think I've done that. What would that be? Susan Shepherd's mail came last week, addressed to the Lookingglass Rural Fire Department?
It's addressed to Tension Bob Russell.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it is.
Is
Yes,
it
it
really?
certainly is.
Certainly, is.
Where?
right there.
It's,
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
well, that,
And it looks like a Christmas card to me, but it doesn't really matter anyway. I delivered it, and in fact, every time mails come here, I'll call you and tell you that something important's in your mailbox. This whole thing about the checks, I don't want to talk about that. Jesus. Anyway, okay,
that was a time.
in any organization, who collects the mail for Douglas County? Does the
The city,
A
one of
director?
our records clerks picks it
Well,
up.
a clerk
if I
or a
go
low-paying
by,
employee,
I do
right?
it. Whoever can get a chance to do it does it. It's usually one of the records clerks because they're out there and it's easy, but it's not.
It doesn't.
I mean, it just needs to get distributed for us.
We
We
know.
know where it needs to go and where it goes.
Well, part of the problem that I'm seeing though is it's just like the combination to the door, the keys to the filing cabinet, keys to the locking mailbox. There gets to be, everybody has it. And then there's no control over who's getting it, who's dispersing it, who's reading it.
So the trust here is between me and you on the board. And if there is that trust, you guys need to find a new fire chief. That's my thought on the whole subject. And this whole thing about mail, this is ridiculous. I understand the combination. I got 17 firefighters that got it, plus the board members. We changed it once. But as far as dealing with the mail or what's going on in this office, I don't understand that. But you know what? If you guys are going to vote on the mail thing, it just seemed, the issue was that we didn't have our locking revenue checks being put into the locking cabinet. That's an easy thing to deal with. That's a policy. Put your revenue checks in a locking cabinet. That's a very simple policy.
Well, see, the only person to me that should handle revenue checks is Kent. I don't want to handle them.
So Kent should go to the mailbox?
Well, but my point is, if,
You're
it's
right.
just like what George and Bob and I are all saying, is you have to have the chain of command, and if Kent doesn't want to pick up the mail and handle the revenue checks, he can designate another board member, because we're the ones that are responsible ultimately for whatever happens to the tax money. And we're entrusted with that. It's not a personal thing, it's an election thing. It just comes down to who's on the line if something happens. We are. And the only way to try to counteract that or handle it and to literally prevent any possibilities of anything, what do you want us to do otherwise? Say, if we don't take the responsibility, like, there should have been a locking mailbox years ago, just because of the fact that mail does get stolen out of mailboxes around here. And that's now implemented. Now the question comes down to who gets the key? Well, you have to trust us too. I mean, like I said, we were elected to try to run this place and to take care of the budget, the monies, the whole bit. And it's like, okay, if we give you a key, we have your word then that if you're sick, you're not going to give it to someone else. You're calling Jerry.
What
you're
if
calling-
he's sick, what's gonna happen with it?
It's in there. He designates another board member.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yes. Because we're trying,
What day will
we're
that,
trying
that's
to
gonna be on
take,
the exact same day, or if he's on vacation, he's gonna designate somebody to take care of it for the week?
yes,
Cause, you know, okay.
yeah.
I go
'Cause-
by here every single day, dropping my daughter
Well,
off. and
most of us
the mail
do.
gets done.
Most of us do. The point is,
You know what, it's your policy, though, I don't.
I know, but I mean, it's just
you know
getting
my
down,
opinion.
I know, but it's just getting down to who really is held accountable. We are.
And my name's on this department,
I
by
know
the
that.
way, anyway, and I want you to realize that, you guys think that you're taking all responsibility here, and some of the things like this, I don't.
Are you gonna step up and take over the responsibility if there's money missing or something of that nature? You're not
Is there
elected.
any money missing?
You're not elected.
Has there ever
You are.
been any money missing in this department?
Well, I'm just using that as a metaphor, okay? Would you be willing to step up with?
I was actually willing to, when the checks, I actually went to the county and I was gonna get them canceled and have them reissued up until I called Kent.
Hmm.
Yeah, I am willing to.
Well,
Are you?
Well, I'm elected to the board, yes, I'm obligated to.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
And I serve at your pleasure, so I'm your employee, so I'm
Okay.
obligated too.
But one thing we need to look at here, this is not staffed like other fire departments around the area. There's no people around here during the day except maybe firefighters that have no business in this particular area, okay? So to compare us to Douglas, Roseburg, the fire state or the police station or any other organization, it would be totally unfair for us to say, yeah, we can do this because they're doing it. There's nobody
This is
here,
about-
there's no personnel here 24/7 like there is on those other places. Am I correct or not?
We got a locking mailbox, that's the whole issue, is getting it from that locking mailbox to the station. And it's gonna be one of whoever has the key, nobody else can have it. And other than the checks being put in the locking thing, once they go into those mail slots in there, they could get stolen again. Right? And as
Well,
far
if
as
the
this
door
letter
into the
here,
office is locked, I hope.
I apologize for this letter, by the way, Bob. I did not see your attention, Bob Russell's name on there. And I apologize for that. And-
What, did you happen to see the fire district was on this one that you opened?
What is this one for?
That's the
Yeah, I
cancellation
opened that because
process.
that was the urgent thing that said that we were gonna have to cancel our thing, or else it would be good. So this is about you and me with this mail, and that's a whole other thing. I wish you would've called me and said something.
It
about
isn't about you and me with this mail, Steve. What this is
And
about,
what does that matter anyway? I'm the fire chief of this department, that office is mine also. What does it matter? I gave it to you.
it matters
I put it in the
because
right
this is a
place.
fire district first and a fire department second.
Well, I just.
We are a fire
You guys
district.
need to find yourself another chief. You can start looking right now.
So
Holy cow.
you're gonna walk out the door.
I'm not walking out, you're gonna fire me. I'm not resigning. You're gonna
Well,
fire me.
we're not firing
We're
you
not
either.
firing.
All right, well, I'm just telling you, you better start looking, okay? Because this is about the fire department and the safety of this community. And this
The
whole
mailbox?
issue is, it's ridiculous. A locking mailbox with the mail being delivered, that you don't trust the fire chief to have the key to the mailbox? That's the kind of trust I'm feeling right here in this board.
Well, see, I wish you wouldn't feel that way because I don't look at it as not trusting you as much as I'd rather take the responsibility.
Yeah.
I would just rather have the responsibility. I mean, can you see how I feel that way? I mean, it's not that I don't trust
understand it, I
you.
guess, I'm sorry.
I just don't, well, it's like some of the other things that we've been discussing with some of the policies. It's like, you already have a lot to do. You don't need to do some of this other stuff. And
Well,
like I
was-
said, it's kind of odd that, I mean, why do you even want to? Like I said, I don't want to have
Well, I
a
don't want
tax yet.
70% to 80% of that mail is mine. So that's why I
Yes,
want to. I
but
should be
you'll-
sorting it and giving it to you.
But you'll still get your mail, wouldn't it?
I hope so.
I mean,
I don't know, for example, right now, is this policy going to be voted on tonight or not?
I don't know.
Okay, because the mailbox is already in place and there's no policy. Well, who's collecting the mail right now?
We voted on that at the last.
You did?
Yes, we did.
Who's collecting it right now?
I,
And where's it going?
it's sitting in a file right here. It's gonna be distributed out here tonight.
Okay. Because I haven't gotten any for a few days, I was just kind of wondering. So you have it,
I
okay.
have it.
Thank you. You voted on that last week,
No, but December meeting,
that you were
For
gonna
the
put this
locking
in
mailbox.
and you were collecting the mail? I didn't catch that part,
okay?
but thank you though.
Yes.
Now I know, at least I know where it is.
I didn't catch who was going to collect the mail until we had a policy in place
Well-
approved either. All I knew is that we had approved the purchase of the mailbox.
And that's why this is supposed to be voted on.
Yeah,
That's correct.
And that's my whole thing, is just,
Right.
we gotta slow down on some of this stuff. Okay, but now I understand, and you know my opinion, and that's okay.
But like I said, you'll still get your mail. Does it matter if I give you your mail, or does it matter if you pick up your mail? I mean.
No, it
it's-
doesn't
it's
matter either
still
way.
the
does it?
mail.
It
No,
doesn't
I
matter
mean,
either
it's-
way. Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
I think it sounds like a control issue.
Well, the control was we're trying to keep mail, like I said, I didn't realize we got tax checks here. I thought that they would be like an automatic deposit, which they should be, because you're talking a lot of money that comes here. And I've had mail and checks stolen from my personal mailbox at home. I can't, for the life of me, think for all these years there wasn't already a locking mailbox, just for the safety of the tax revenue checks. I'm amazed. And so
I have
that's,
to agree with Steve, though, that he's got as much responsibility and he's got different responsibility and.
yeah, it's different.
And it is.
It's right, it's
His
different.
mail too, and it seems like such a huge issue that mail thing seems like such a huge issue as who's gonna collect it? I mean, if you think about this conversation that's been going on, it's like, you guys are arguing who's gonna collect them.
Well, we were trying to get to the point where, we were trying to get it to the point where it was just board members being responsible, since we are responsible. And, I mean, it does come down to that, that's the law, that it just is. So that, like I said, we're on the line when something happens, not Steve, us, we're liable.
Yeah, Bruce?
Well, you know, there's a lot more involved here than money. I'm sure Steve has sensitive items coming in, private information on his firefighters. He sends off information back and forth through people. And I think lock a mailbox is an awesome idea. And I really don't care if Steve gets it or Jerry gets it. I'm you know, it doesn't matter to me, but I think one person needs to be responsible for getting the mail from the mailbox into the station and securing the station. And I think Steve needs a secure place for his mail, because I actually, you know, the money's replaceable, but identity theft, I mean, you have reports come in with people's names and social security numbers and stuff. I mean, I would worry more about that than I would the money, because the county's gonna have to give you another check when it doesn't clear. It may take a while, but if you had, lock a mailbox stuns me that it's not, I couldn't function without one, knowing what goes on out there. I mean, I've seen people stealing mail. You go by and like, they don't live there. You get turned around and they're gone. So, and I called the police on them. And had one guy's daughter arrested. I'd never seen her before. And he thought it was pretty fun. She didn't. But I think the mail should be secured.
We had a tax check stolen out of our mailbox,
and
that was in fact cash.
That's very pure and simple. It should be secured from the mailbox to the hall, the best possible way. One person responsible, or is designated, you know, whatever.
But see, Bruce, what you're saying right there is that's it, the crux of it. One person
Yeah,
responsible.
Because you need some responsibility for that.
Right.
It's-
And so if it's one person responsible,
Ken's responsible for the treasurer's report, you know, and you're responsible for the secretary.
right?
And George is responsible for all the equipment, along with Steve. And Steve's actually responsible along with all of you in all your duties.
Right.
So it's kind of a big package. And, you know,
But that's why I tried to
Well-
designate the communications officer as that person, so that it narrows it down.
well, that's what, I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter who does it, as long as it's one accountable person.
Right.
And, you know, it's,
Well,
and it's done in a timely manner. You know, after you get your policy done, and there'll be no mail hung up between there and there. It'll come from there to here. And, you know, the only thing I could say that would be adverse for Steve, that he's gonna have to come into the hall to see if there's any mail for him, other than the box. You know, other than that, that's the only hardship that Steve would probably have to go through.
That's true.
You know, that was something that was bothering me, but you know what, I understand what you're saying, and I'll withdraw my complaints.
You know,
After all this, you're
Well,
withdrawing
you
your
already know my
complaint?
views are, but if this is what the community here has just told me, that one guy should come from that mailbox to the station under control, I agree.
you know, I don't care who it is. I really don't. But I think it needs to be a responsibility, not taken lightly, because of Steve's sensitive material, of Kent's money, of your correspondence with lawyers, doctors, and Indian chiefs. It's, it's all,
We have to respect each other.
and you share everything you get, all of you do.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's just, I think it's just a step in making this a good, solid foundation. We're starting with a foundation here, trying to build a foundation.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna say one thing, that it's been one hell of a ride in the last year and a half.
Thank
And
you.
I think anybody that has any doubts on that, I'm gonna bring the hard drive down and give it to you, and hopefully I'll be able to help you sort those out. And
The videos.
And I hope that you two new board members will maybe go back at your leisure and look at that ride and look at what happened to get this excellent 6-member group we have here. I applaud all of you. You've all done a hell of a job, and this isn't the time to be getting squirrely and not agreeing, and you need to, you've done a hell of a job to get here. Just keep on working on it. And I think your nose is about ready to break out of the ice. It's been, I know you guys put a lot of time and a lot of effort in this, and I applaud you. I'm stunned and amazed that it's, looking at what we had to deal with to start with, and the information that we had to digest and sort out, I'm amazed that you guys are sitting there with what you've accomplished with your weekly meetings and your monthly meetings and all your hard work on your own. And I don't think 99% of the people in this district will ever have a clue what this has taken. Well, that's all I got to say.
Thanks,
Thank
Bruce.
you.
Yeah, Mark.
Adding just slightly to that, these are, policies that have been kind of mulled over, gone back and forth, stuff like that. But as was mentioned earlier, none of it is set in stone.
Very good.
If it doesn't work out, you can make an amendment or a change to any one of them, whether it be the mailbox, who's responsible for mail, any of that stuff can be changed to adjust to fit the requirements of this district and the people in it.
I guess I'm concerned about, I have a lot of time and stuff that comes through there, but you know what, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm really a nerd about, just about getting stuff done on time and everything. So I'm just gonna let it sit out there, and I'll wait. I trust Jerry to do a good job of what he's doing.
Well, or he can designate someone else that better do it just as well.
Well,
Okay?
And it's no.
I have an idea. Maybe make a list of things that you need notified on.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
okay, I'll come by here enough, I'll just drive in.
just make a list of if this comes in, I need to know. Write it on whiteboard.
Yeah, we'll see, we'll find out how it goes.
So you're not quitting now?
I'm not gonna quit.
Oh, good.
I'm not ever gonna retire, or quit from here, I'm gonna tell you that.
Glad we got through this.
Sure.
Boy, this was fun.
Go ahead, George.
But I'd like to make a suggestion that we get a small secure box with a slot to put Steve's mail in. He can have his own padlock and he can come by and pick it up, open it up at any time he wants. And just be a little small
Or I can
box.
have a lock, I can get a locking file and just give Jerry a key to that too. And he can put that, if there's something sensitive. At this time, I'm not worried about it. The inbox on my desk will be fine, because we're behind the locking door. The only other people that
Yeah.
theoretically have access is the firefighters, and I trust them. So.
I feel that it should be secured in some manner, whether it be a filing cabinet or a locking cabinet or something.
But just because of the sensitive nature of some of his mail.
Exactly. And so,
I'm
you
okay
know,
with that
this is
money.
the whole purpose of what we're discussing about this mailbox, is keep total chain on where it goes. So if it goes in the chief's box, that's it. It went in the chief's box. If it's for Kent to take those and open up the mail and pull the checks out, they go into a location we designate.
But you're putting Jerry on a pretty fast learning curve here. He's gonna have to
Well, we can help.
become the mail clerk in 30 seconds or less.
Well, okay, there's
it's not-
nothing stopping Steve from standing at the mailbox, and as soon as Jerry opens, he goes, that's mine.
That's cool.
I mean, there are ways.
Yeah, you can sort out junk mail, right? Because we get all kinds of
I got a funny joke. You guys love this. So I'm in a logging camp in Alaska, right? And we get our mail whenever somebody goes to Tennessee, or it comes out on a mail plane, and it goes from crew boat to the crew boat to the office. And my buddy FW, his first name was Fortis Wayne Heron from Sealy Lake, Montana. He makes a comment one day. He says, "I really like living in a logging camp, Bruce. You don't get any junk mail." He says, "I hate junk mail." I said, "FW, why do you hate junk mail?" He says, "Because I got to open it." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, you just never know." I said, "Okay." And he's really a bright young man. So I'm in a dentist office, and I'm going through this magazine, and it says, "For all this information, fill this card out." Really? F.W. Heron. I put my $2.50 in envelope, and I stamp it, away it goes. Well, this goes on for a couple of years. And I called, and his wife answered the phone, and she said, "He may not talk to you, Bruce." I said, "What is that, Marianne?" She said, "Well, he's been using a mail service for his taxidermy business, and he talked to the mail clerk, and she just got a request. This is a clearinghouse for mail for your name, and it's a strange name, and so FW has called this gal, and she said, "Hey, I just got a card with your name on it." He said, "Really? Where was it postmarked?" She says, "Well, I don't know." She flips it over and she says, "North Bend, Oregon." Good story. You always ask him about it. Pretty good story. I like that.
That's bad.
I think as a finish to this, since last April, before this incarnation, this board came, Riesel was around for a while. I've been doing the mail, and I've been doing the old administrative assistant jobs and all this stuff. And the transition for that for me, I was taking a lot of that responsibility, is going to be a little difficult for me, and I'm trying to figure it out right now. Because we just went over this insurance thing, the workman's comp. I'd love to hand that folder off to somebody tonight, because I'm done with it. I took care of the final forms. Well, we can talk about that in correspondence. There's nothing else going to have to be done until April, so it's all yours. But anyway, I'm having to drop that stuff off, and I'm having a hard time adjusting that right now. So, sorry.
It'll work.
Anybody got anything else to say down there on the table?
I never have finished the reading the policies.
Yeah, we're not going there yet. I just want to say something about this. It surprises me this is such a bad issue, because this is it's just a stinking mailbox across the street. It really is. And Steve, this isn't a trust issue of you. I'll tell you that right now. Even with this, it wasn't a trust issue. These were just mistakes. What this is this is just purely a responsibility issue that this board needs to take responsibility for. And I think that we also have to address the security of that mail once it gets in this office. Because there have been some peculiar things going on in this building of late. And we've had the door open twice. We've had all the lights left on 3 times. This is just my experience. There's something wrong there.
We had air compressor turned off, which left 2 of my units out there without.
There you go. I mean, it's like there's something, whether it's gremlins, you name whatever it is. What we have to do here is we have to establish a foundation that we all believe in. There isn't a person sitting up here of the 6 of us that doesn't want this to be the best station, the best fire district in this state, if you will. But the simplicity of little things like this, to me, I would trust Jerry without even blinking an eye to walk across the street pick up the mail, he represents the board of the elected individuals that represent the constituency. Bring it over here, you get everything, it's never open. You get everything that's got Steve Rhodes, fire chief, fire department, volunteer fire association, volunteer firefighter, all that stuff. You get. Nobody opens, nobody looks at it. All we get is anything that says fire district or one of our names. That's it. That's all this is. And it's so much simpler to point at the elected people when something goes wrong than it is to point at you, the appointed person, when something goes wrong. To me, that's all this is.
Well, there's more to it than that, but that's okay. It's just that 80-90% of mail's mine. I've been doing it for a long time. Something else you said, but that's all right. Go ahead. I'll look at this for a while. See how it goes. Thank you.
We can always amend.
It doesn't matter. We'll see how it goes.
Where was I? Oh, yeah,
You got through mail.
Article. Was on Article 2.
Article 2.
Disorderly conduct. Anyone disrupting a meeting shall be first asked to be seated and quiet after his/her 2 minutes are expended. If the disruption continues, he/she will be asked to leave the meeting, the building, and the grounds. The president or presiding officer will be responsible for these actions. If these are not successful, the sheriff will be called and the person will be charged with trespass. Article 3, Section 1, Acquisitions. A, facilities and maintenance. Whenever it is required to purchase items for maintenance of the fire station, if the estimate exceeds $500, there must be 3, and this changed, quotes, if available, presented to the board for approval. The board may adjust this amount at any time. B, vehicles and equipment. Whenever it is required to purchase items for equipment of the fire station, if the estimate exceeds $500, there must be 3 quotes, if available, presented to the board for approval. The board may adjust this amount at any time. See fiduciary policy, Article 3, Section 1.
You can't.
I just raise those limits to 1,000 rather than 500. That's my only thinking on that.
Why?
Less work.
Are there that many items between 500 and 1,000 in the course of a year that makes a difference?
Don't
I can agree with that because Steve's got a $1,000 credit card and you trust him to make a $1,000 purchase, so I can agree with that.
So you're suggesting that there be no comparison in price at anything under $1,000?
Well,
Because I think
No.
Steve's doing that already.
I am doing that.
that's what I mean. He's doing that already. But this specifies, there must be 3 bids presented to the
3
board.
quotes, not 3 bids.
Excuse me, 3 quotes presented to the board. And, but as you mentioned, I think he's
Only
a
if it's under
responsible,
$500.
a responsible purchaser. And I'm not worried in raising it to $1,000 at all.
My question was, the only existing policy we have is $1,000, and there was no quotes. And I understand the quote thing. I get bids. I got bids for every single thing. I went grant and didn't ever, it was $100, but that was my question. As stuff gets more and more expensive, it got lower, but I don't know. I can live with that too. The one thing here is it's limited to facilities and maintenance and vehicles and equipment. We just went through the insurance. There's all kinds of things that go on here that probably should be gotten quotes on it. I mean, we just went through an insurance thing. We could have got, 2 quotes there. There's all kinds of stuff
That's why I put if available,
yeah.
because sometimes
What I'm
it's not
saying is
possible or
between-
timely.
It's just besides facilities and maintenance and vehicles and equipment, there's other things that need to be quoted also. Not just my responsibilities, but the ones that you guys do too.
What do you feel about the $500?
It was 1,000 before and it's 500 now. You guys feel that we need to tighten that up to 500, right, to be more accountable? Is that what it is?
Basically,
Yeah.
It was 500 when Steve Hamill came on board last November, you remember? And then they changed it back again, I think, in February. It went,
I wasn't able to find anything except the old policy manual, so it was 1,000 with no bids, but that was.
no, it was 500 when Steve Hamill was appointed. They had changed
I
it.
might not have been here
No, you weren't, no. So it's bounced back and forth, I mean, you know,
then. It's just more work, but then I would do that, I do that anyway, so.
well, to me, okay, am I wrong when you're getting a bid for one amount or the other? I mean, isn't it basically about the same time frame?
Yeah, it would be.
Okay.
And if it needs modifying, just run it by the board.
Yeah,
Simple as that. I mean, nothing is in stone.
exactly, I haven't said anything about that, you asked me. I'm used to doing it with 1,000, so I'll be doing it with 500.
Well, we find if it doesn't work, we can always increase it.
Any other comments on that one?
Steve, do you see any situations where that can create a problem for making purchases?
No, it's just, well, you don't get much for 500 anymore, but then you don't get much for 1,000 either, so.
That's true.
So we're gonna be getting quotes anyway, is that right? I guess, we're gonna be getting quotes.
Anybody else?
Is that the wind or just
Yeah,
ghosts?
sounds like it.
Okay.
It's nasty out there.
It's poltergeist.
Then I would just ask Steve that, you know, if we're going to implement this policy with that 500 amount, you know, as time goes on, if you feel that it is becoming a problem, please let us know.
Okay.
Yes, Mark?
It could be, a little thinking down the road here, the entire policy manual should maybe be subject to an annual review for possible changes.
Well, not even annual as much as, like I said, as things come up.
Yeah,
Because they might
maybe
come
that's
up
the better
throughout the
idea.
year.
Yeah, that's probably just.
It's like, yeah, we've just started writing these things. We haven't had these rules and guidelines and they should have been implemented and put in place when this district was formed, and they weren't. And the guidelines that were there were a little shoddy and lacking.
Lisa, do you recall what the ORS's requirement is for purchases, as far as when bids are required?
It's under the 478.
I know, but I don't have a whole 478 here.
I do.
was looking through it, that's why I was curious.
Oh, let me just look over your page, whatever I can find.
It's really all of what you're trying to do here is to just protect,
Yeah, it's right, 478, 260.
as it says.
Oh, you don't have it?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, it's, let's see, I'm trying to find the part where it's saying you can, it says like, you can contract and pay for things at rate of compensation mutually agreed upon. There's a whole bunch of sections in here as far as, that's where it starts though, and it just goes on. So
what I-
it's
what
like you
I-
have to set your own, you have to set your own agreed upon amount, is what it's.
So there's no statement in any of the
No.
ORSs that require us
No.
to get competitive bids for items or quotes for any tax expenditure issues?
Well, yeah, hang on just a second, I think that's a different one. You're talking about
Just the fact that anytime you're spending tax money,
right, I
they
gotta
typically
find
want
that
you to
one.
compare the price to make sure you're getting bang for the buck.
Yes. Hang on.
It
Right.
can't
Because
find
they
it quickly, we
list
can just
doesn't-
go on, but
Well,
It doesn't
often
put
it
this
seems like
report.
the purpose of it is to
Payment.
avoid cronyism and fraud.
absolutely.
Yes.
Not so much that you're getting the best bang for the buck, but it seems like more often it exists
78, 40,
Well,
and-
it's-
to avoid those problems.
But in our mission statement, excuse me, it requires, your mission statement says you will get the most bang for the buck. How else?
Effectively.
Yeah, and then it goes on to the, for the revenue and finance, under 478, 410, about when you get into different types of agreements, and
But there's nothing in there that's just for comparative pricing?
not in this section, no.
Right.
No, I think that's, hang on a second. I need the big book, it's easier.
I'm not seeing anything about it.
That's interesting.
Oh, that's the reserve fund, don't want that, not going there.
But
It's, hang on.
Steve, since you do this already, is this a major issue? I mean, is this?
No, I already said that, I can.
No, I know you already said it, but I'm just asking.
It
to make
just,
sure.
it just made me wonder why we dropped 4,000. And that's it.
Well, what I'd like
I
us
can
to,
live.
what I'd like us to try and do here is not to take any of this stuff personally.
Yeah.
That isn't what this is. We're trying to establish, in effect, an ABC of this district on how things are to be done.
Sure.
And we can change these things at any moment on a month basis.
Right.
If this comes out, that you find out that you're having to go out and on your own opinion, purchase something that's between $500 and $1,000, and it happens a couple times more than you think the pain in the ass is worth,
Yeah.
then we just sit there and bump it to 1,000.
Yeah.
I
Because
don't
I
think,
agree.
and I'd also like to say, I can't think of an instance yet where you've come to us with something that was to be purchased that any of us have disagreed with.
Right.
Not once.
Right.
Okay, so that isn't the issue here. So we can raise this at any time if it becomes a pain. The last thing we want to do is to create more hassle for Steve's job.
And I know where that was from. It was from the very earlier budget bylaws that are still, they're in the big book. That was implemented from the previous old board,
That what?
the 3 bids.
Oh, is that where that was? I know I read it someplace, I just didn't remember
That's where it's
Okay.
at. Yeah,
Okay.
it's from the old board established
I knew it was
policy.
Still seems like it should be in an ORS somewhere when you're dealing with tax revenue.
It should, but
Yes. Might have to
I don't
ask.
think it is. I think it's more
At
of a
least not
local.
478.
No, I think it's more
No,
of
it
a
would probably be
local.
in one of the 100s.
It
Private
might be
review.
under the local budget law, but I think that's where they made that a policy for this district, just because it was, when it was established, I think.
It's a policy with the city also.
Yeah, it goes
I
back
don't think it's
25 years,
Yeah.
you know?
Thing, it's, like Bob said, it's tax dollars.
Yeah.
Right, and that's, but you can change it. I mean, it's not a fixed amount.
Oh, weird.
And people, like I said, different
I think we're there.
entities do different amounts.
I think we're there, so Article 4.
Oh, Article 4. Section 1, drug policy. Random drug testing to be managed by the fire chief. The cost of any test will be incurred by the district. Article 5, amendments. Section 1, amendments. Any amendments, changes to these policies must be voted upon and approved by the board. Any vote to change or amend these policies requires at least 3 votes to approve said changes. Changes must be presented at one regular business meeting and then voted on at the next regular business meeting.
Okay, so
Thank
here's,
you.
here's where we are with this document. We made a change to monthly on page 1. We made an addition of the regular, special, and executive board meetings on page 2. We have a question in regards to Susan Shepherd's recommendation for the treasurer's report content, whether to vote on that as is and change at a later date, whether to postpone the vote until we get that recommendation. We have an addition to item B. Where am I here? Item B.
Community.
Your participation in community events
Yes.
that we all openly agreed to, haven't voted on. The addition of the paragraph that Jerry recommended. And that's it.
Well, we have a question about the amount, but
The question about,
the 500 or
well,
1,000.
Steve
Is
agreed
Wade
that that would be
doing that?
something we could work with for now. I
Okay.
assume that was what,
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, I've worked in a lot of fire departments, that's low compared to what I used to. But then, this is Lookingglass Road
We
Fire.
don't have,
There you go, I got
you
you.
work in big time, this is little time.
so does anybody want to make a motion on this document?
Before we do that,
Sure.
can I just get clarification, under treasurer, what is the statement that's going to be included that we're going to vote on?
Well, that would be what the motion would be. We have two options. We can either vote on it as is, with the concept that we will amend it as soon as Susan Shepherd has her recommendation. Or we can just right now choose to table this entire document until we get that recommendation. That was what we discussed.
Or a third choice could be to write a simpler statement, I think, as Kent
Well,
might
sure, you
have been
could.
suggesting.
You could do that, but that would still fall under kind of the one that Susan Shepherd's going to recommend even after the fact of that one.
Mhm.
So yes, that is definitely, if Kent would be more comfortable with a shorter version of 1 through 4, and then we have the modification potential for Susan Shepherd's recommendation at a later date, we can definitely do that.
Kent, how do you feel about that?
Well, I gotta say up front, I'm gonna vote no in any case.
I'm sorry?
I'm gonna vote no in any case.
But we'd still like to hear your thoughts.
As far as the treasurer's section, what I hear Bob saying is that Susan Shepherd may suggest a very significant difference in the way we do things. And to talk about how the treasurer is going to do things before that comes doesn't seem to me very useful.
So you would prefer to table this, is what you're saying, even though you state that you're going to vote no? I don't want to put words in your mouth, I'm asking the question.
I don't know, as far as for the treasurer's section only, I would put that on hold. I don't think the rest of it's going to change.
The rest of the treasurer section,
No, the
or
rest
the
of
rest of the
the
document?
rest of the document.
Anybody else? If we don't get a motion to do something, we can't do anything, so that's where we are.
Well, do you want to vote on just an incomplete document?
If we don't vote on this document, then we're going to have to discuss and vote on how the mail is handled while this document is in process. That's what we have before us right this moment.
Then I would like to make a motion that we approve this procedural policy document with the exception of the treasurer's report until Susan Shepherd can work with us and, clarify Kent's and the treasurer's report section.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion? Yeah, I'd like you to kind of explain that, Reed. So what you're suggesting is that the treasurer's report section, items 1 through 4, would be blank?
It will be exempt from this motion, from this policy at this time.
Effectively, we're taking it out. We're deleting
Correct.
that items 1 through 4
Correct.
part and approving the document without that list, and then we'll be adding that list sometime in the future.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, just
When
wanted,
you reread that, will you just have to reread that section then, or you have to go through the whole document?
I'm gonna read the
just
whole
that.
thing.
No,
I
just
like reading.
I'm just asking, I don't know about
Please,
that part.
please.
I like to be on film.
Okay.
just that section.
Why?
Even though there's changes that are being made?
We can approve the other changes now.
But what if she put something different in
I'll read the whole thing.
Well, yeah, what other changes are there gonna be?
Commas.
Commas.
Well, traditionally, in most board meetings I've been to, as an example, minutes. People read the minutes, are there corrections, they make corrections or changes, and then they say, motion to approve as corrected.
That's correct.
Same things with policy, you can make a motion to approve as changed.
Well, in effect, that's what we're doing here, is this is approving this as changed and as deleted items 1 through 4 in the treasurer's report. I mean, effectively, that's what we're doing. This will be blank.
Yep.
Any other discussion? No? We have a motion. Everybody understand the motion and the second? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
No. And one abstention.
Item G, community meeting. It was the topic to schedule a community meeting. We're going to put that off, I assume, but because we tabled item B, the newsletter, both will be tabled till February.
Mhm.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.